Thank you, Esko, for those words. I'm sure Robbie Berkin will not be of the same opinion, but of course we have our opinion and I have my opinion, and that is different from a boatyard opinion. I will now speak as an owner of a classic yacht, and I've had classic yachts for long. I currently own several of them, and I've used quite a bit of time to think about that. What is it that makes you want to own a boat like this for a long time? And I come to the conclusion that it's really a question of the quality of the build and the decisions that you make at the boatyard when it's being restored. There's a saying that if you don't aim for the highest possible quality, you will end up paying for it anyway and not get the benefit of it. That was Henry Ford. So we aimed to do a completely non-compromise renovation of this 12-meter. It wasn't as bad as Jeanette. It was pretty bad, but it floated when we bought it. And the whole history started in 1936 when Lady Marion Carstairs ordered a boat from Charles Nicholson. Marion Carstairs was really an interesting lady. She was the world's fastest lady in 1928 when she made a world record with a motorboat. She looked like a man and was called Joe. And she is supposed to be the lover of Marlene Dietrich. But this lady never took the order, but she sold it on to a family called Hartridge. And I will come to that later. But this is Charles Nicholson on Endeavour 1. Charles Nicholson was the most prominent of the British naval engineers at that time. He did the Endeavours and also the earlier Thomas Lipton boats, which all competed for the America's Cup. But as you all know, the British has never won the America's Cup. This boat was built here in this yard, Camper Nicholson's yard in Gosport in Hampshire, that was bombed to oblivion in 1944, along with the original drawings of the Blue Marlin. The Blue Marlin was a boat that had a really close on, was planned very similarly to a Vane and a Nitra. It's a series of 3 boats, all are a little bit different, but with the help of the Maritime Museum in Greenwich, we got the whole series of Charles Nicholson boats before and after Blue Marlin, and was able to see what he must have thought when he was planning the Blue Marlin. There is some really interesting films about this boat. I've had a journalist looking for the history of the boat for almost 2 years now, and she's come up with some incredible things. We are now in contact with the Hartridge family, who was the family, as I earlier explained, who owned the boat when it was launched. And here's the world premiere of the film when Blue Marlin was built the first time. So now we have to see. Yeah. Push it. It's a 1-minute clip. No, you went further. You went too far. One back, and now push. So here is the lead key being made 1937. Look at the hats and all the safety gear. The Camper Nicholsons were really staffed with hundreds of people who knew how to build boat like this, and they were able, I think, to do what we now take 5 years to do. They did it in less than a year. The boat, after the boat's lead keel has become cool, it must have taken a few days. We can now see when the wooden keel is put on and the frames planking. Planking is on. The hand tools. Now it's painted. And there's some footage from the launch. Just let it go. For me, it's really important with the heritage of these boats, and I think that's one of the way to make sure your interest is being kept up. A boat without any heritage is not much different from a new boat. So this is really important, and we are going to do both a film and a book on the restoration of Blue Marlin. It's coming along. I don't know if Robin Berking does it this way. We don't. Soon you'll see it going into the water after Miss Hartridge tries to get the bottle, break the bottle, it doesn't work, and third time it breaks. Here it goes into the water. Okay. So that's how it was done the first time, and this boat was launched with the best of the best at that time. It had Bradseat Laptorn sails, which most of the racing boats in the world had at that time. On the left you see an original picture from that time when Bradseat did the sails, and on the right you see a 1937 parachute spinnaker, which I received with the boat. And I had a historian from Britain, Mr. William can't remember his name anyway, he said that he believes must be the oldest spinnaker in the world. And it looks like it's never been used. It's a beautiful piece of art, and it's now in Kotka. I'll probably give it to the museum after we're done with it. Okay, here's the list of the owners. There's a book about Marion cars. There's Betty, and there's a book about, of course, or several books of Tom Sopwith. Tom Sopwith is the most famous of the owners. He bought this boat to practice for the America's Cup. He had the Endeavour 1 by Charles Nicholson and the Endeavour 2. This boat was really successful in 1938 and 39. He sold the boat, built another one, and there was a long line of British owners. In 1951, John Fairweather, a British subject that lived in Genoa, took it to Italy, and then it had 50 years of Italian owners. And I bought it from the Italian owners. They held it at that time in Slovenia. Here's a Beacon of Cows photograph of 1939. I'm sorry to say that I believe I've also seen that this boat beat Vim. So I don't think it's the only boat in Germany that beat Vim. This is the other one. It will be great to go against the German 12 when it's done. They have beautiful lines. Of course, all meter boats have beautiful lines, but some of these boats are just they just look better than others. The fore triangle of this boat, the Genoa 1 is 105 square meters. The main is 144 square meters. The spinnaker is 170 square meters. There's a lot of things going on when you say it. In Italy, it was at least at one time registered in Panama or some reason or another. Panamanian flag there. But look at this, you couldn't make a wrong choice here. You would know right away that it's Italian. 3 motorboats coming after the 12 as it sails on. So we gathered the team. Alan Savolainen, who you all know, is here today. He will be able to ask to answer any technical questions. And David Pedrick, who's been on this seminar before. David has worked on 23 12 meters, some of them the winners in the America's Cup, as the Sparkman Stevens head designer. In the beginning, we needed to scan the hull to get a laser scanned copy of what we had in our hands. Kammo Stroman helped us to do that. David Pedrick took those materials and made drawings out of it, and then compared it to a Vane and 3-wheeler and the Tomahawk, which is the next one of the Charles Nicholson 12s. And we were able to get what we believe is the original Blue Marlin. Of these scanned copies, David made the frames files, so we could make it a little bit different than you have done in Germany. We blew them out of a solid piece of brass, or not brass, of bronze, with a water jet. in CAD/CAM using CAD/CAM. So that's a bit later, but in 2008 we moved it into the yard, and it looks pretty nice, but it isn't. Here you see how it was, not Jeanette, but almost. It had a galvanized steel construction. Every third frame was steel. It took us a while before we decided what should we do, a stainless or something else, and we decided we'll do it out of bronze. And there were several reasons for it. There's bronze, which is, sort of very hard. It's called constructional bronze. That's what we have used here. And there's also bronze that is very soft, which we haven't used here. All fastenings are of bronze. There's no other metal on the boat except some small pieces of stainless. Everything is bronze. So there shouldn't be any galvanized problems. And these boats are so big that the big problems you will run into are the automatic or self-galvanizing. If you have different steel in the same, it will be like a car battery if you don't think about this beforehand. Here's all the water jet and done bronze frames in place. That's in January 2011. There's still the original planking around, but it just wasn't possible to save it, but we needed to have it in place to be sure that we get the exact fit of the original boat. Here we bend elm into place. We did not do, we used elm. It was pretty hard to find the elm, I can tell you. I don't know if you have noticed the same problem in Germany, but elm was pretty hard.
It's hard to find.
Hard to find, yeah. Our source of wood is Jon Lammert van Buren from Holland. And David is in the middle, Alan to the left, one of the construction boat rights in the back. Here we have both steel and wooden frames in place. The next thing we'll start is planking. And we had to plank everything new. There was no hope of using anything of the old material. But of course we can say that if of the weight, more than 50% is original, the lead key. There's some other stuff as well. These long, I don't know how they're called, stringers, the white ones on the side, they are original ones. The rest is new. The deck is teak on a sheet construction, and you start by ripping the teak, making the planks for the deck. Then we vacuum bagged it, glued it on to the deck in order to be able to not have any screws that go through construction. A lot of fairing was done. I don't know if 2 or 3 months is right. I think it was maybe even more. There's a lot of work to get it fair. We imported this guy from Seattle, who is a professional caulker. This art is lost in Finland. There's nobody who knows anymore how to do it right. And this guy is very well known, Mr. Zimmer, I think his name was. And he was working at the time in London or England, doing caulking, flies all over the world, one of the best known men for this work. We had an opportunity to invite all the shipwrights in Finland to come and look him do this, so that the art of caulking would be renewed here. The boat is so big, and we believe it's going to be stronger by caulking. It's also going to be easier to replace the planks. The bronze will last forever. The planks may not. And it's going to be easier to repair if that ever is needed. At the end of this show, I will have a 5-minute film when you see John Zimmer caulking, and be very careful to listen to everything he says and look at his hand movements and how he does it. It's really, really interesting. And here it is.
Blue Marlin's very nicely done. Good craftsmen have been working on her. She has very small, tight seams, which will be really good for Blue Marlin in the long run. It doesn't make caulking any easier, but it's probably a really good thing for the boat. And she seems to be built out of good materials, and I think she'll go a really long, long time. I try to pay attention all the time to the boat. We're going over the boat inch by inch. I pay attention to what's happening around the wood, all around what I'm doing, but mainly I focus on putting in very small tucks, lots of them, and trying to build tension in the boat. It's a common, I think, misperception or misinformed concept that all we're doing is keeping water out of the boat. But you can see by the way the boat's built, it's got many individual pieces, and I'm trying to make those by building tension into the vessel. I'm trying to make those individual boards act like one board, but still stay flexible. So to make a very strong shell for the boat. So I'm just starting on top of the tail that I left. The idea being that we want a continuous line of material in the boat. And I'm just making little small tucks. I'll go slow to start with. And then I'll speed up to basically a normal threading speed. And then we set that, and it's important. I've made all these little tucks in there, and when I'm setting it, I sort of work myself from one side of the seam to the other. So cotton always goes in first, goes into the bottom of the seam. The seams on a boat this size are deep enough then that I would follow up with oakum and fill up the seam. So I have some oakum here that I've spun. You can see here where I've threaded in, so I'll just set this. Caulking is all about feel, not about strength. It's how the seams feel when you're corking them. It's how the material comes up hard. You don't have to hit the thing really hard. You try to let the mallet do the work. And you feel the seams as you go. You'll notice any soft spots or hard spots or that kind of thing. And what I'm trying to do here is make the material, the cotton and oakum, hard into the seam, and I want it to finish off, whatever the width of the seam on the surface is, I want that cotton and oakum to be about 1.5 to 2 times that width deep. Cotton and oakum should last quite a long time, 20 to perhaps 30, 40, even 50 years. That's assuming, of course, that the foundation that it's built on is good, that the frames, the fasteners, and the planking is in good shape and everything is tight. It's much easier to repair a caulked boat than it is a glued together boat. If If you have to take one plank out, you can easily take it out and recork around it rather than trying to break the glue line, finish it up, and then glue a new plank back in. The irons are of two types. Generally, they're threading irons and they're making irons. And we have lots of different. We have bent irons, which are bent to get into tight spots. We have nib irons, which are what these are. Or I might modify something for a very small seam and actually make it a less wide iron. But the threading irons are relatively sharp to put the material in the seam, to thread it and set it. And then we make it back. And to give you an example of that, here's some fairly wide irons. And these are used to make the material back hard into the seam. And there's a variety of widths. The idea is that we use the right width to finish the seam at the right depth without tearing the wood apart. So you have to have some kind of intuitive feel for what it is you're doing with the seams. As I finish corking for the day, I paint all the seams. This happens to be painted with red lead, which you can see on the boat as a primer. And all the material then is covered up. And what that does is creates a primer for the putty, which is this very soft, linseed-based, like window putty that you might have at your home. And we want to just fill the seams up completely. And what this does is it allows a good paint surface to occur, but it also protects the material that's inside. You have to pretty well learn on the job. I was able to learn fairly quickly, which is somewhat unusual because it's quite awkward to do for anybody who's tried it at all. They usually find it very strange. So I felt like I learned from some good teachers, and I continue learning today. I don't assume that I know everything, and make sure that I'm always paying attention and trying to learn more and more all the time.
Okei, siinä nyt kaikki vaan tilkitsemään. Everyone can go walking. So there's quite a bit of different philosophy to this than what you see happening in some of the boat yards in Viapuri or Suomenlinna, for example, where they are actually trying to keep the water out. Okay, we have built a mast and boom. Juliana Hempel design for the mast and Fredrik design for the boom. It's 29 meters or something long, and it took us a while to get it right. Weighs around 500 kilograms, and of course everyone who knows meter boats, they know that the height from the deck is 2 times the rating plus 1 meter. So 2 times 12 plus 1 meter is 25 meters above the deck, and a few meters under the deck. All hardware is custom made. There's nothing we have bought from store because there isn't any really available. So the winches, we had an original 12-meter winch from the 1930s. It wasn't on the Blue Marlin, but I was able to buy it. And we used that as an example for the layout for winches that we then ordered from Harken. They are all modern Harken inside. All these bronze pieces are made in Kotka. Here's a nice little example of one. It's not an anchor. You can look at this afterwards. And it's been just a great project to do. And these things are, a lasting impression of it. Now we know how to do this. It's a great new knowledge. Some pieces are made by Ording in Holland. They make the most beautiful blocks. And this is how it looked yesterday when I went to see it. I believe the boat will be in the water in the summer, and that is early summer. And there's been a tremendous interest against this. I haven't met anyone for the last 3 years who hasn't asked me first, how's the boat? And so I thought that, okay, there's so much interest, maybe people would like to share this experience, and now I've come to the conclusion that I am ready to share that experience with you. It's possible, and it's a big boat, and it has to be in the hands of professionals, but it will be available for charter. I won't do that many times, but I will do it. So if you're interested, be in contact with me. This picture, by the way, is not the Blue Marlin, it's just a picture. But there will be possibilities to participate in races with this boat, if you're interested, and there will be possibilities to have it for a day or half a day or something. The boat will, in the summer, it will be in Helsinki, and it will probably make one trip to Germany or England every year. So that's the plan for the boat. It will be at the NJK. I've had a discussion last week with Satamalaitos, and I will probably drop a buoy outside NJK between NJK and the possible Guggenheim place. Somewhere there. Okay, thank you very much.